He and I actually had a conversation a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And he said to me, I'm still grieving the loss of our marriage. I'm grieving. And I said, Kody, you don't get to tell me that. And he said, yes, I do. And I said, no, you don't. After all of the things that you've said about me on the show and in public and to the world, about how you never loved me and all these very hurtful things, you don't get to tell me that you're grieving.
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. And I've noticed something pretty telling about Kody Brown. Out of all the wives he's parted ways with, there's one he just can't seem to let go of. And it's not the one he was closest to or had the longest marriage with. It's actually Meri, the very first wife he essentially discarded early on in the series. Ironically, she's also the one he's spoken about in the most derogatory terms over the years. He's called her evil, unsafe, and unpredictable. He's claimed he never loved her and has expressed outright fear and contempt toward her. And yet, here we are, in the fall of 2024, and Kody is still, unbelievably, toying with Meri emotionally. During the recent tell-all, Meri revealed something truly shocking. Speaking to Suki, she disclosed that just a few weeks before taping the tell-all, Kody had called her out of the blue. He told her he was still mourning the end of their marriage. Now, I seriously doubt Kody would ever confess that publicly. It doesn't fit with the narrative he's always tried to control. But honestly, it aligns perfectly with the years of emotional manipulation he's subjected Meri to. Let's pause for a second and consider how twisted and misogynistic this all is. In their religious setup, Kody was allowed to marry multiple women, essentially cheat on Meri in broad daylight, and even have children with them. Legally and morally, that's infidelity. But when Meri, isolated and neglected, reached out for emotional connection elsewhere, just someone to talk to, it was treated like the ultimate betrayal. That double standard infuriates me. The fact that people still blame Meri for that situation is beyond frustrating. How can anyone say with a straight face that she wronged him? She didn't. Kody was the one who emotionally abandoned her, who left her starved for affection and companionship. He betrayed her trust long before she looked elsewhere. And yet, despite all that, Kody continues to keep Meri under his emotional control. Imagine you finally left your ex, moved away, tried to start over, maybe even started seeing someone else. Then that ex calls you after your new relationship ends and says, I'm still grieving our marriage. That's not sincere grief. That's manipulation. I wonder how many of you have experienced something like this? I'll share my own story to help explain. Years ago, long before I met my husband, I had an on-again, off-again relationship with a guy. We lived together briefly, and after we broke up, he kept reappearing in my life for years. Even when I was engaged and later married, he would email me saying he missed me and wanted to reconnect. I had to draw a hard line and block him after I got married. When your ex reaches out claiming to miss you, it's rarely because they want meaningful closure. Most of the time, they're trying to reopen wounds, stir up old feelings, and pull you back into their orbit. It's not about reconciliation. It's about control. That ex of mine was a narcissist. And I can see the same patterns with Kody. When narcissists see you moving on and finding peace, they often come back around, not because they care, but because they don't want you happy without them. They want to be the center of your emotional world, even if they no longer want a real relationship with you. That's emotional manipulation, plain and simple. Kody's doing the same thing to Meri. Even though she's left, even though she's tried to reclaim her independence, he refuses to truly let her go. If he were genuinely grieving, that's something he should process on his own. He doesn't get to dump his feelings on her after everything he's put her through. It's not about denying him the right to grieve. It's about him not weaponizing that grief to emotionally destabilize her again. I'm glad Meri seems to be recognizing this now. She's been focusing on personal growth and seems to have gained some insight into the toxic dynamics at play. Still, I don't think she's gone through the kind of deep trauma therapy that Christine has. Speaking from my own experience, because I've had narcissistic partners and family members, I want to offer some perspective. Maybe this will help those of you who are in a similar situation to Meri's. We've all seen enough to know Kody exhibits narcissistic traits. I know some of you are tired of hearing me say that, but it's impossible to discuss Kody's behavior without acknowledging how damaging it is. Narcissists are addicted to attention and validation. They see other people not as individuals, but as tools to meet their emotional needs. For years, Kody thrived on the adoration of his family. He fed off their praise, their loyalty, and their efforts to make him feel important. He saw himself as this godlike figure, and that validation became his emotional fuel. People who are supportive, loyal, and generous with their love, like Meri was for many years, are especially attractive to narcissists. Once those people pull away or stop supplying that emotional energy, the narcissist often can't handle it. That's when the manipulation ramps up. They may try to suck you back in with what's known in psychology as hoovering. It's like a vacuum. They circle back and try to suck you back into the dysfunction. That's exactly what Kody is doing with Meri now. When you escape a narcissist, you usually go through a confusing period. Everything feels unfamiliar because for so long, your reality was shaped by their lies, gaslighting, and emotional control. I've been there myself. When I finally cut off toxic family members, it took me a year just to recalibrate and understand what had actually happened. I spent years being told I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't meeting expectations, and being made to feel inadequate. The moment I stepped away, I started to realize how twisted the whole dynamic had been. And that's why Kody won't leave Meri alone. Not because he loves her, not because he wants her back, but because he still sees her as part of his emotional ecosystem. Even if he no longer wants her in his life in a romantic way, he still wants her to orbit around him emotionally. He wants her to stay within his gravitational pull, continuing to validate him and feed his ego. Something really interesting is happening with Kody Brown, and it involves Meri, the wife he discarded long ago, but still can't seem to fully release. This is the same woman he's humiliated repeatedly over the years, calling her evil, accusing her of betrayal, insisting he never loved her, and labeling her as unsafe and unpredictable. Yet even now, years after the collapse of their marriage, Kody is still emotionally entangling her in his twisted web. During the tell-all, Meri dropped a surprising revelation. Just weeks before filming, Kody reached out to her to say he was still grieving the end of their relationship. That's shocking considering how much he's tried to distance himself from her publicly. But here's the thing. He's not actually trying to reconcile in a healthy way. He's engaging in a manipulative tactic commonly known as hoovering, where a narcissist tries to pull someone back into their toxic cycle. When a narcissist hoovers, it often starts with an unexpected message or phone call. They might pretend to want closure, apologize for their past behavior, or claim they miss you. They might even call you by accident or bump into you in places where there's no way it's a coincidence. Their goal is to reel you back in because they miss the emotional validation you once gave them. Narcissists don't want to fix relationships. They want control. And control requires access. People who are supportive, loyal, and generous with their love, like Meri was for many years, are especially attractive to narcissists. Once those people pull away or stop supplying that emotional energy, the narcissist often can't handle it. That's when the manipulation ramps up. They may try to suck you back in with what's known in psychology as hoovering. It's like a vacuum. They circle back and try to suck you back into the dysfunction. That's exactly what Kody is doing with Meri now. When you escape a narcissist, you usually go through a confusing period. Everything feels unfamiliar because for so long, your reality was shaped by their lies, gaslighting, and emotional control. I've been there myself. When I finally cut off toxic family members, it took me a year just to recalibrate and understand what had actually happened. I spent years being told I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't meeting expectations, and being made to feel inadequate. The moment I stepped away, I started to realize how twisted the whole dynamic had been. And that's why Kody won't leave Meri alone. Not because he loves her, not because he wants her back, but because he still sees her as part of his emotional ecosystem. Even if he no longer wants her in his life in a romantic way, he still wants her. In this case, Meri said something profound. She told Kody that it's no longer his place to do this to her, to reach out and stir up feelings. But instead of accepting that boundary, Kody became defensive. He told her he had every right to talk to her about his grief. That response says everything. Kody believes he's entitled to do whatever he wants, regardless of how it affects others. He disregards her emotional safety and boundaries completely. That sense of entitlement is typical narcissistic behavior. He doesn't respect her decisions. He only cares about maintaining some level of access to her life so he can continue to manipulate the narrative. Kody isn't just reminiscing about his past with Meri. He's seeking out the emotional fuel he's not getting elsewhere. If he was truly satisfied in his relationship with Robyn, he wouldn't need to poke around in Meri's world. But narcissists are rarely satisfied with one person giving them attention. They crave constant admiration and affirmation. And Kody has lived in a world where he received praise and devotion from multiple wives for decades. Now, with only Robyn left, the supply he once thrived on is limited. He's restless, he's bored, and so like clockwork, he goes back to the one woman he knows was endlessly loyal, Meri. This cycle is toxic. It always begins with love bombing, making someone feel special, adored, and desired. They'll call you their favorite, say they miss your friendship, remind you of the good times. It's all meant to break down your walls. Then once they sense you've let your guard down, they move into the devaluation phase, criticizing, withholding affection, or becoming emotionally distant. Eventually, they discard you again. And when you finally walk away, the hoovering starts all over.